Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League. It is so good to have you here because this is going to be a very, very special episode. We've got crazy stuff to talk about in this episode, and my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman, is going to tell you what all those big topics are right now.
I think that false promises do more long-term damage than admitting that this episode doesn't have anything that spicy in it. I think that if you start every episode with this is a very special episode when it's not, people won't believe you when it is. I don't believe this is a special episode. Things happened. FlyQuest won some games. EG got booty blasted. Dignitas ended the first round robin with a winning record. Yeah, things happened, but is it special? A special
counterpoint
depends on each person.
On YouTube, you make every thumbnail and title make it look like something insane happens in the video, even though things insane usually don't happen unless you're the LCS YouTube channel.
You know what? Let me tell you, that's the problem with YouTube. All right, I cringe every time I see a clickbait thumbnail and title. It's just so lame. It's just. I'm from Reddit, and I think it's lame that people do things that are best practices. I hate when book covers try and grab your attention.
So when you go to the LCS YouTube channel and you just see Golden Hour Summer Week 4 promo, that's something that you could really get behind.
Golden Hour. The sun is setting on what? We don't know.
You almost said on the LCS, so that you pivoted.
No, it's not Golden Hour for the LCS. Don't say that. We're talking about other things, like the season is in the back half. It's not a golden shower. He said golden hour.
It's about Golden Guardians. That's what I think, because there's a Golden Guardians player in it. I think a better title would be like
selfies for girls.
Can Golden Guardians crush it, or something like that.
Can they take good beach selfies during Golden Hour?
Maybe not that.
That's what I mean. That would probably bang better than whatever it did. Let's see. We're gonna go look.
Matt Haresians says, Mark, Linus Tech Tips also got complaints about clickbait titles some years ago. He changed to better titles, and it's way nicer. I'm going to go look at Linus Tech Tips videos because I don't think that they have changed.
I don't really watch his stuff, but let's see.
I watch his stuff, and I think that they are still...
This weird Japanese laptop looks 20 years old.
Our studio is a huge waste of money. This beautiful PC has an ugly secret.
I'm actually getting mad now. Doesn't sound like shit changed, bro.
Yeah, exactly. No. He doesn't do clickbait titles. Those don't sound clickbait to me. All right. Let's talk about other things, including the fact that Alienware is sponsoring this episode. Thank you to Alienware for sponsoring, as always. We'll talk about them later on in the episode. So... let's discuss the big things. What FlyQuest winning, is that the hottest topic for
it's technically the first time that's happened this split.
Yeah.
So it's got to be big news. It's never happened before. So the first time FlyQuest has won a game in summer in 2023.
Was there a viewership doomer thread? Because I saw a lot of conversation about it. And I didn't know if there was another one where people looked at the stats and were like, "Oh my god!"
I didn't see a new one, and honestly, the stats haven't really changed much week over week, which is actually kind of a win in the small sense that usually it trends down pretty aggressively through the middling weeks of summer.
Yeah.
And it's
a friend of mine has said
drops on.
A friend of mine has said we found the floor, as in we won't go below this. This is the floor.
68,000. Seems to be the floor, I guess. And to be fair, if you look at peak matches, some of them are also still in week 3. So the highest viewership match was week 1, day 2, then week 3, day 2, then week 3, day 1.
Mark, was there anything that changed in week 3 that you think could be a contributing factor to viewership increase?
Nope. Actually, are you hinting at something that I'm forgetting?
Yeah. I think you need to pick something up because something may have
base drop. Did you like the drop segment? Did you like my egg drop?
I like the egg drop. I don't know, and I liked Raz blowing you up. I think I thought the bass drop thing was the bass drop and the eye drops. I was like, what am I watching here? This is
the bass drop was not as big. I thought it was gonna be like the bass boom, like you know, like an actual dubstep, but it was more EDM-y.
I will say here. I will say I'm going to put Mark in an uncomfortable position where I flame a piece of content that colleagues of his made. I thought
you do that every week. What do you do?
I don't think that's true. What did I flame? What was the last piece of content that I flamed on Hotline League?
Golden Hour 10 minutes ago.
That's a title. Anyway,
a piece of content.
I don't know, and I love him. He's a talented individual. I do not fault him for this. But if anybody wants to see the dichotomy of the LCS right now, content wise, is crazy. Because you have some stuff that comes out and you're just like, this is fucking awesome. Like, Are You Smarter Than is great. And it's got a shit host, and yet it still works out really well every week.
Imagine that show with a well-polished, well-run game. It would suck.
On the other hand,
well-run.
On the other hand, everybody could go watch Kobe's Gift, Cool or Cursed, if they want to see something that is cursed. I do not understand why that piece of content got released.
You're cursed.
It was rough. I did like Mundo Dodgeball though, and Static Shiv. It's just you just get everything right now. There's no quality control. You get amazing content, and then you get some not so amazing content. And
that sounds like TGI to me.
That's true. Do you think that TGI and Riot games should be held to the same standard?
Yeah, why not? They're both YouTube channels.
Well, I think Riot might be a bit bigger than a YouTube channel.
Yeah, but that's all actually that's a negative. That's baggage. You can't be as lean. You can't be as adaptable as a one-man hit squad Travis Gafford Industries.
True.
It's a small indie company. What else can we say?
Well, I guess by that argument, I would not have released that video that we're discussing. It's
yeah, I wouldn't have released your Palafox interview. How about that?
Really?
4.5K. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like Palafox.
Tell him to be more marketable, and then we'll.
I'll tell him. I'll air this. Here, actually, that's a great point. Here's what I do. I take this clip of this Hotline League, and I show it to him in a video, and I say, hey, could you please react to this? I need to create a better piece of content, and I think him reacting to Mark's criticism of his last interview is perhaps better content than the interview. I'm just saying,
you look at Palafox, Travis Gafford interviews. Let's see. Palafox, Travis Gafford. All right, 8.5, 4.5, 8.6. This little bro hasn't broken 10K. All right, tell him to break 10K and then get back to me. Send this to him.
Okay. Anyway, let's talk about
Jojo Pune, 14K. That's why he's the NA GOAT.
Oh, one thing that we can talk about is an individual who has been blocked on Twitter has commented in their team subreddit that Insanity is going to start for week 4 of the LCS.
So I guess we're talking real big news. Do you want to talk about shows before then?
Yeah. What somebody asked me to ask you your opinion of in the chat. I saw somebody asking me to ask you your opinion of season 2 of The Bear.
Loved it. I think we talked about it last time, but I don't think we had finished it. The season finale was chef's kiss. I was worried that there wasn't going to be a third season with how season 2 was shaping up. Not worried about that anymore. It was really, really good. The finale got me. I also watched No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence. That was really good. It was just really funny. I would recommend that movie.
I took Mark and Kobe out to dinner for their birthdays last week, and it was a great dinner, very nice. Kobe was disappointed in the calamari because it was not fried, It was like roasted, but other than that, it was good.
Grilled caramel.
And then Kobe and I tried to start watching episode 1 of The Witcher, and halfway through, Kobe was like, "I'm tired. I want to go to bed." And so we're halfway through episode 1 of season 3 of The Witcher.
We're gonna start that tonight. I think Ashley and I. I feel like we watched some other stuff, but I can't remember. We watched a really bad movie with Siobhan from Succession on Netflix called Run Rabbit Run, and it was just absolute shit. And the whole time, I just wanted Logan Roy to show up and be like, "Fuck off, Siobhan," and it never happened. And I think the movie would have been 10 million times better.
Are you gonna watch? Are you gonna watch Secret Invasion?
I don't know. It's up to Ashley. I don't really care about Marvel that much. I just like watch whatever comes out.
Okay, so she's the one that pushes you to Marvel stuff.
Yeah. I don't have a strong care for it really. I'm further in Final Fantasy 16, and it just continues to sour my opinion the more I play of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I am. I've been doing the same combo from the beginning of the game to now, like 30 hours in, and I'm kind of bored. And the side quests, it's like I know this team made Final Fantasy 14, and the side quests in that game are kind of bad too, but it's like more acceptable in MMO. But this is like MMO level bad side questing in a game that has nothing else going on, and it is so ugh. When you're playing the combat, it's fine, but like you'll get a quest that's like, oh shit, there's bees at the grapes, kill the fucking bees, and you'll kill 4 bees, and they're like, thanks, quest over. But you have to you spend more time running around.
So Ari the Valkyrie in the chat is arguing with you. Says some of those side quests are really good story bits. So if you miss some, you miss the best parts. And combat can be varied dependent on yourself. And the grapes are a nod to 14. You just don't get it because you're not a real fan.
Oh, my bad, dude. I should have played fucking 70 hours of side quests in an MMO, different mainline entry into Final Fantasy in order to appreciate picking up dirt and bringing. You literally collect dirt and return dirt to someone. And yeah, the side quest stories are maybe some of them are good. I've done every single one so far, and they're not good. Like any sort of like good RPG or well-written game would like do so much more with these. There's one. Okay, small spoilers, Travis. Don't kill me. Small spoilers about the world building.
I'm so sorry, everybody.
Magic users are oppressed in this world. If you're a magic user,
I don't even need to fucking watch it anymore or play it.
It's like literally one of the founding like world building elements. It's like saying radiant, like I don't know. Anyways, point is, there's like, but some people like you don't know they're magic users. Sometimes like they unlock their latent abilities later on in life, and like basically people are racist towards magic users. And there's this one guy who like finds out he's a magic user late in his life, and he has to like run away because his friend who's racist against magic users suddenly like, I hate this guy. And instead of like doing any sort of like insightful deep dive, is like, you are now the thing that you were super biased and judgmental and hateful against. Like, what do you do with that person? I didn't like this person just because they're a magic user now. Like, I have to defend him. I was like, this guy was a piece of shit before, and now like he's on my side because he's like. And instead of giving me, Clive, any sort of like agency in the quest, things just like play out. I'm like, okay, cool, fucking sick quest, guys. I just like watch this, and oh my god, the presentation value. They do the same fucking lame like drop the camera in slowly as someone walks into frame as Final Fantasy 14. Like they use the exact same stuff that like just the directorial framing in this is so fucking bad. You know, people are like, oh, it's all cutscenes. Like, well, then why didn't you put any more effort into the cutscenes instead of like doing the same lame ass entrances that you do in an MMO, again, which I'm fine within an MMO, but a character action game to present its story in such boring ways. Oh my god. Never mind the quantity of cutscenes. The quality is just not good. People just sit there and talk. There's nothing dynamic. It's not like ride your chocobo across the land while talking to your friend in like an interactive sort of way. It's like, no, you fucking sit there and like people just, the camera just cuts from single to single to single to single, and no one's ever doing anything. Don't tell me it's a 10 out of 10 game. It's a 7. It's a soft 7 at that. It's fumbling through my fingers. It's melting as we speak.
My last show and tell thing I will mention is I did my first PowerPoint party yesterday. and my topic was why the Cosmere will become the next MCU. And that was a fun one. I enjoyed it.
I can't believe you did something other than magic. That is actually shocking to me. You are healing. You're getting over your addiction. You talked about something with a PowerPoint that wasn't magic.
All right. Anyway, let's get into some calls. So what do we got? We got Insanity starting for TSM for week 4. So Ruby we had that conversation last week. How long will it work? Or how long will you give Ruby? Apparently 1 week is the answer. And Insanity starting for week 4. We got FlyQuest actually winning games. They are currently tied for 7th, which is crazy to think about. But I guess that's what going 3-0 does for you in a week. We got Team Liquid kind of fallen. And right now we got EG, C9, Golden Guardians up at the top, which is not really that different than what we saw last split, I guess. So, yeah. Interesting things shaking up because we got all these crazy situations going on with, 3-day weeks. I mean, we are now halfway through the split, which is wild to me. And
yeah, 3 weeks in, halfway through.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. I think, Mark, have you been trying to... I'm curious. Have you... Because I know there's a lot of doomerism, but we haven't addressed much doomerism on the show recently. Are you dodging a lot of the doomerism in the topics, or are people just not submitting doomerism takes?
No, there's plenty of doomerism. I just there's nothing really to say. It's like, oh, things are bad. It's like, okay, I don't disagree. We've talked about it before. I don't think anything new has gone bad since the season started. So I'm not sure how relevant they are. It's like format takes. It's like there's always format takes, and I'm just not going to pull them that often because it gets repetitive. So maybe if you see one that you feel like is raising a new angle, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
At least for me.
All right, that's fair. I see you already pulled one that is somewhat talking about stuff, but from a new angle. It looks like
Right.
Yami
Yes.
is in
That one is well, I don't know what this person's going to say. Maybe it's interesting, but if it's just I think Riot fucked up by canceling the first 2 weeks of spring or summer, or whatever. It's yeah, but that's old.
Yeah. All right. So we got that, and then what else? Oh, fun fact: one team, which will remain anonymous for now, I believe might have blacklisted me.
TSM.
I won't say who, but I did get declined.
One team has
for an interview this past weekend, and there's not very many people in the media room anymore. So we'll see what happens. But I have a theory. Wait, I'm gonna. You know what? I'll commit to. I'm going to LCS this week. I think on Thursday. I'm gonna request another interview with that team, and I will update next week. And we'll see how things go. All right.
It can't be TSM, actually. They lost every game, right? So you didn't request TSM.
No, I request losers sometimes. So maybe
rude.
Maybe. Well, didn't you didn't see my Speak interview?
I'll talk to losers.
No, dude, you didn't see my Speak interview. I released it today, and at the start of it, he was pissed, and he's like, "Oh, now that we're winning, you're requesting interviews with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, because team players never want to do interviews when they're losing. I don't tend to do as many of them." And he's like, "That's fucked up." And I'm like, "It's a good interview. The Speak interview is very fun. People should go check it out."
I'll watch it after the show tonight. All right, I got some takes. You ready to start?
I am ready to start jumping on in. Off Mark goes to grab the first caller. Thank you to Darth Zombie, Kethius, Seaman Demon, Maximus Payne, Thighfloored, the Darth Zombie, Amluke, Hobnobbin, I Love Cafefe, Mr. Dr. Enchilada, Clarinet, and Weather Mullet for the subs. We got Mark grabbing our first caller, and he is here with none other than bluejay. bluejay, where are you calling from? bluejay. Where are you calling from? Ontario, Canada. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take is that watching TSM go 0-3 after taking out Insanity was the most satisfying thing we've gotten so far in the summer.
All right, is that because you're a TS? Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Elephant out of the. Let's just get this one done. Everyone's gonna be waiting for the insanity, justice for insanity take. All right, let's do it.
I'm never gonna get blacklisted at this rate.
What? You didn't pull this
leak?
person. You didn't say what they said. You just platformed them.
I thought you said it wasn't TSM that blacklisted you.
You know what? I said I didn't say who. There was a comment last week that said, hang on, let me see if I can find this, where they just said, like, Travis defending them running Ruby when Insanity is, everyone know Insanity is better is disgusting. And I just said, care to elaborate? And then they did not. Anyway, what do you got first, bluejay? Go ahead and expand.
I guess I'll just start by saying, like, if they think their best chance of winning was with putting in Ruby, that's fine. I just have a hard time believing that that was their best chance of winning. And another thing about TSM is, like, they have this thing where they always have players that you really want to cheer for and you want to see them do well. And then it's TSM. And then I feel like you're just allowed to cope one way or another, where, like, if they do really bad, it's like, perfect, TSM, getting punished for being TSM and doing stupid TSM things. And then if they do well, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm happy for this player because, like, I like Turtle and I like Chime and etc. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say for now.
So but it seems like you're not coping in, I guess I see what you're saying. You're coping in this is satisfying. But if they had won, it sounds like you would say that it was also satisfying because you like Turtle and Chime and people.
That's been TSM for the last, like, I don't know how many years. Like last year, it's like, oh, okay, well, Speak is doing well. Oh, they're losing? Well, fuck TSM.
Okay. So you would be happy regardless of what happened with TS. What I'm uncovering is, like, you don't care.
Well, no, I suppose, yeah. But regardless, more to, like, the actual take, I still think it was great to see them get punished for doing what I think was really just not their best course of action for winning games.
But
right.
I think you're making a good case that being a TSM fan is the best kind of team to be a fan of, because no matter what, you're kind of satisfied.
Perhaps. You're not calling me a TSM fan, though, are you?
Maybe. You say you'd be happy if they win, and you're happy if they lose. That sounds like a fan. You're happy no matter what. You're just happy TSM's playing games.
I'm more of a fan of their individual players. Let's put it that way.
But you're also a fan if they lose.
All right.
You're watching TSM.
Perfect.
You're
Let's
watching
get
TSM
in
games on bated breath. That's a fan, man. In terms of action and outcome, motivations aside, I don't believe in motivations. I believe in action and consequence. And that's it. Motivation, not a thing.
I have no issue with that. If you want to call me a TSM fan,
let's get into the take, please, dear God. All right. Is it satisfying watching TSM lose? I did not feel one way or the other. Other than, like, I'm always bummed for the players when they lose. I did not feel any kind of, like, haha, you subbed out Insanity, because what I said last week on the show, which is, like, I think you probably do owe an opportunity to Ruby to prove themselves before you say, oh no, we're stuck with Insanity. I think that is probably the fair and reasonable action in this situation. And so they did that. We saw what happened. I don't know. I'm not like, haha, let's go. I think the only thing that is cool is that I harbor just the slightest hope that teams going into next year will notice a very interesting trend this split, which is that North American talent have seemingly been competitive with, that people have counted out, have been seemingly competitive with a lot of players from other regions that everybody thought we're putting a ton of stock into. And it's not that I root against imports or anything like that, but I just continue to think, like, orgs overvalue the idea of, oh, this player comes from another region. That means that they're going to be superior to North American talent. So that's
one of the main reasons why it felt good to watch them go 0-3s, because they took out the North American talent and then they get punished for it. But
I just don't know if they're going to, like, well, one, they're leaving, right? But, like, are other people going to, like, are the teams going to notice this trend? Like, are GMs going to be like, oh, wait, maybe getting all this talent from other regions is not the key to success? I just don't, I'm so jaded because I just don't think that people get it, They don't,
like, if they were to catch on, they would have by now?
Yeah.
I think, like, also, to be fair, they haven't been proven right yet. Because maybe Insanity loses those games. Maybe Insanity comes back in and lays a big turd, and he goes 0-3-2. And then what do you do?
You know what
And
everyone's
then,
going to say, though, right, Mark?
yeah, that taking him out ruined their mojo or
Of
whatever.
course.
And yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's obviously a little bit of truth to that. Like, it's probably not fun for Insanity to be getting jerked around a little bit. It's probably not fun for the other teammates to have their mid laner swapping and do these kinds of things. Like, yeah, of course it's a less smooth ride than just having a starting mid laner who's playing well. But at the end of the day, I'm happy Insanity's back in. I'll say that. Like, I don't have any ill will towards Ruby. He took a contract. We can talk about TSM shouldn't have signed him in the first place. These kinds of things that you guys are talking about. But I have no Insanity's been in our scene for 5-6 years now. I don't know how long. He debuted way back on IMT in like 2020 or 2019. I can't remember, but like he's someone who's been around. And like I'm always going to want that person to do well more than the person who's probably here for 6 months. So in that like very selfish lens as well, like, yeah, I'd rather the people who are like a fundamental part of the NA scene to be doing well, which is like
Insanity joined Team Liquid Academy in 2018. And
but he had to been grinding before that too. So
there were 2015 and 2016 were years where Insanity was on like academy or like third tier teams.
Yeah.
And then 2018 Academy and 2020 was when Insanity debuted for Immortals.
Yeah. I think the final thing, which I was talking a little bit on the dive today, is like a lot of times people say like, oh, it's like you have to give Ruby his fair shot because he signed this contract, and like it wouldn't be fair to him to basically jerk him around as well by saying, hey, you're going to be a starter on this team and then you're not. I think the difficult thing is like, was this really better also for Ruby to get put into a team in the middle of the season against somewhat tough competition and be like, get out there, buddy, and then if you fail these 3 games, you're dead to us. Like I don't really think this helped his case going into next year any more than just saying like, sorry, we rode the hot hand. So like even on the like, oh, he was owed this opportunity, it's like sort of, but I don't think this necessarily helps his case, because the only scenario that works for him is if he comes in and dominates right away. And like I think any player would be like, yeah, give me the ball, I want to try. But also you are starting with less scrim practice than everyone you're playing against. You're going to be fresher to America for the first time than anyone you're going to be playing. It's like it's just all stacked against you, and then you don't look good, and then you get benched, and now the story is Ruby benched by TSM.
Mark, one thing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't.
That was my final thing. It's like,
yeah.
I don't think this does right by Ruby any more than not starting him in terms of outcome as well.
Yeah. Other than you're kind of putting it in Ruby's hands, right? That's the only. Like, I think Ruby. Most players would rather be like, give me, as you say, give me the ball, but also, if you're like, it is a little patronizing or belittling to be like, no, we have to protect you because like you could.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say like this doesn't. There's a world where you would actually have been helping him if this scenario felt likely based off of scrims or something.
Yeah, I guess maybe their scrims with him were going really insane, but if they weren't, you're basically like, what you're doing. Like, you're subbing him in without much practice, without much opportunity to acclimate to the environment. Like, we've seen this happen before. Quid's first week was terrible. He was much better his second week. If this is like, if Quid was in the same situation where there's a like Nuke Duck was actually a backup mid laner who was smurfing for 2 weeks before he came in, Quid wouldn't be starting either. And there's like, this happens all the time to people where their first weekend is not great.
Okay, question. So, do you think that it's finally time to start acknowledging that visa issues exist? Because I feel like everyone pretends that this isn't a thing. They just import a player and then they go, oh, no, this player showed up, this would have been 4 weeks into the split, like halfway through the summer split. And they go, we could have never foreseen this happening. And I get that, like, you don't control the visa process, but isn't that kind of the fucking point? Like, isn't there, especially if you're bringing a player in for summer, it's one thing if it's like spring. I think there's even questions we had there about whether or not it's wise to like risk your spring split off of a player having visa issues. But if it's summer and you are like counting on this new roster to catch up and try to make worlds or try to be competitive, and then half that time ends up becoming a situation where you're waiting for a visa to fulfill. I don't know. I just feel like people like just say, whatever. If the visa issue happens, we'll just work with it. But like, I'm like, I don't know if that's actually a good strategy.
Yeah. Someone in chat also said that 3 games a week makes it harder. It actually made it easier because your first 2 weeks were canceled.
Yeah.
Like most of these teams would have been 4 games in before the season actually started. And then for some of these teams, it took a week or 2 more. So, you would have been 6 games in instead of 3. So yeah, I agree. The visa issue thing is real. It happens all the time. It happens to multiple teams, every split, every year. And we still go through it.
Like,
Which, to your point,
it's not just a situation where you're saying, "Oh, I think this player is better than North American talent, so we're gonna bring them over here and do all this stuff." You have to also say, "I think they're better than North American talent, and so much better that they can miss the first half of the split, and the roster will still perform better."
Scrims. They don't need to speak the same language. They never have to have lived in this country to be comfortable. Don't have to worry about culture shock. They're just so much better.
Yeah. That they can,
it's like
you can start them late and the team will still perform better than running this dude from, I don't know, Columbia I'm losing my mind. District of Columbia.
Yeah, I think there is a fair case to be made again. The difference between spring and summer. Like I think if you are knowingly looking longer term, fair enough. But yeah.
I completely agree, and I think that you're just adding on to the list of reasons as to why this was a bad move to make the swap, honestly.
And Bowen in chat says,
how many players with visa issues don't pan out? Like, a lot.
Then Bowen in chat says, then the import player gets dropped without an income and put on the first plane back to their home country. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's such a fuck situation. I feel like we're not.
Yeah, I mean, we often. I was going to say real quick, we do often talk about things from the perspective of the fan who, is upset that this person's getting a chance, not this one. But then, yeah, it's got to suck ass to be that pro as well, who's like, all right, I'm flying over here. Okay, I lost my job. Great, bye.
And maybe this is a failing on my end for not covering that half of the story, right? But like, we never hear for the player who like flew over here, played for 5 weeks, got benched in their 3rd week, and then got sent back and like just got their whole situation fucked. It's like
you should absolutely
start
do
interviewing.
A sit down with Ruby. Do a sit down with Ruby at the end of this. Just be like,
what was it like
to
do that?
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we're trying to represent his side accurately. We're not trying to do a smear campaign.
Yeah, fair enough.
Hey, thanks so much, bluejay. Oh, go ahead.
Last thing I wanted to say real quick is that there was a lot of issues this week with TSM that were not Ruby's fault. So I don't want to make this sound like this is just a dunk on Ruby kind of discussion. There was a lot of other issues, like Turtle just randomly dying to double lift in lane from a Varus arrow. So I think it's important to realize that even though all of the focus was on mid lane and what if Insanity was playing right now, TSM has other issues. So I don't want to make it sound like this is just dunk on Ruby.
Oh my God. White Rice in the chat just said, does anyone know if it's possible to import players from North America? Then we can import and also have NA residents. It's a win-win. How do we trick the teams into not to being like, oh, by the way, North America.
I'm from Canada.
All right. Thanks, bluejay. Anything you want to shout out?
What do I want to shout out? Are You Smarter Than? That thing is awesome. I love it. It's great. Shout out that. Oh, and Azael is a natural caster, by the way, that too.
You mean play-by-play?
Whatever I said. I don't know.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. All right. We can grab the next caller. Thank you to Mr. Dr. Enchiladas, I Love Cafefe, Hobnobbin, Clarinet, Weather Mullet, Zoom J, Ewok, and John G365. We got Yami here. Yami, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. Hey,
He's calling from Columbia.
Just mentioned it, yeah. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I had a Doomer take, and then Mark was like, I don't want to pull any Doomer takes because they're boring. So I'm going to reconfigure my Doomer take to be a positive take, which is
Wait, I mean, what?
the-
Okay, wait. What was your original take? Because I don't
my
want
origin.
the people to
Okay.
be like, Mark is
No,
censoring trash talk.
no, I'm not. My original take was basically the content this season, the storylines this season, the games this season, kind of the player personalities. All of this have actually been like the most engaging they've been in the LCS in like a while. I've been watching since like 2014, 2013 era, and this is kind of like a throwback. Like the cast has been really good. The broadcast has been really good about getting out player personalities, about bringing on people like Cutie, the TriCasts with players and with like other different personalities, catching up with Double Lift. All of that stuff has been great. And the doomer part is that it sucks that Riot has clearly lost confidence in the LCS as a product and is trying to kill it. They are the moving it to weekdays, the firing Dash, threatening to cancel the entire league, nuking development, and all of this in favor of like indexing into, oh, we're gonna put Valorant on the good day, or oh, we're gonna do like, I don't know. It sucks that the cast has had this really good turn right as like the support, at least from like an outside fan perspective, seems to have vanished and left it without an outlet to shine.
So I don't know. I'm glad that this is your take. Mark, were you trying to get Yami to change it?
No.
Okay.
He was reacting to what we said at the beginning. I didn't.
Yeah, I was
didn't tell him
reacting.
anything.
Okay. I'm glad this is your take because I think it's worth discussing. Because your impression is that Riot is literally trying to kill the LCS. Like they're actively making decisions with the intent of making LCS go away.
It feels like if you were trying to phase out a product without having to like actively void all of your contracts with like promises to sponsors and stuff, like this is exactly what I would be doing with the LCS.
That is a very funny way to answer it, where like to you the actions are indiscernible between like just bad decisions and like intentionally killing something.
Yeah, like I mean, it could just be a lot of bad decisions, but like this is exactly what I would be doing if I was trying to kill the LCS and I was in charge of it.
Okay, walk me through why you think they would want to kill it.
So maybe kill it is a little bit strong, but I do think that it really seems like they're trying to cut it and cut down on the amount of that they're investing in it and wrap up their various obligations to maintaining the LCS.
Sure, but why would they? Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. Because I hear this a lot. I see it a lot on Reddit and stuff, and so I'm just trying to understand, like, in this theory, what incentives do they have to like do to wrap it up?
I think that they have decided that other products like Valorant, like the whatever new games they're working on, the new MMO, the new fighting game, all of these things, I think that they have decided that LCS is not worth or will not continue to be worth the amount of money that it costs to keep it running. Like it is, like you've talked about this on the show earlier, well, a lot before, but like the expense of running something like the LCS is not.
Yeah, turning on the studios is very expensive. It is very fair. It is expensive. But if that was the case, wouldn't they be trying to do this to their other leagues in other regions as well? Like if they're basically like, oh, we don't think League of Esports is it. We want to make a bet on Valorant and on upcoming titles to be released.
Well,
wouldn't we see this behavior elsewhere?
League is more popular in other regions, like in Korea and China. The leagues aren't struggling as much. I mean, like even before the changes, like the LCS was not doing as well as these other regions, and maybe like Valorant has not taken off. Overwatch has never taken off in the same way in China, so maybe there's less of a bet as like FPS is in America. Big thing. We're a console region. They're making Valorant console games, or they're gonna make a console version of Valorant. We're a console region. It makes sense from a business perspective to index into the.
Okay, so here are some kind of counter. So one, think you're making a like part of the reason why I appreciate you saying all this stuff is because I think a lot of people feel this way, and you are making an argument that a lot of people, I think, mentally they go through. But good, here's a question for you. Have you looked at like the world's sponsors before? Like the sponsors on the world's broadcast are like, some of the biggest ones are like Verizon, right? And other American brands and other American sponsors. And I think that if you lose North America, those sponsors do not come in on global content. I think they also do not. They are probably very wary of Val, right? Like if you burn the bridge with these sponsors by basically like subtly, but from your perspective, intentionally killing the LCS, these brands are going to be far less interested in investing into, excuse me, your Valorant scene, your Project L scene, your TFT scene, and they like and the narrative that persists around the LCS and Riot's failures there, I think is bad business for the other scenes. I think the other thing is like you somewhat when I see this argument, I think someone including yourself, it's like somewhat of a false dichotomy, right? It's not a situation where it's like, well, do we want to invest in Valorant or do we want to invest in League? I think their best case scenario is that they can invest into both. And so I just think it is funny to me and somewhat unsurprising that you look at all the decisions and you say, well, clearly they have decided like to intentionally sunset the LCS. But I think, Mark and I somewhat laugh at these takes, not because we think they're unfair or stupid, but because we know how hard internally there is like unhappiness around what is happening in the LCS, especially at the leadership level. And so I could definitely tell you that like it is not a situation where they are trying to intentionally disrupt or intentionally sunset the LCS, even though I know a lot of people will not believe me when I say that.
Well, that's why I phrase it the way, or like I appreciate the way Yami phrases like this is what I would do, is because like to a lot of fans, it's not even apparent that Riot cares about the LCS. Not that they're doing the right choices or whatever you want to criticize. It's like, oh no, the only way I can rationalize this is if they hate the product or something, which, like you said, we know is not true, but it does speak to the failings recently that. It's indiscernible which of the two it is. So, yeah, I mean, again, people are saying it's obvious they don't care or whatever. But yeah, I mean, being internally, I can tell you that people do care, and not just like the people who actively work on the product. But to Travis's point, there's a lot of like broader ecosystem level reasons to care about the LCS's well-being, even if it's not fully altruistic that you care about the LCS. So like, you could make the case that like, yeah, Riot doesn't care about the LCS, but even if they didn't, they still care about what it means to have the LCS around and in a like decent state. It's a huge L to have it fail, right? Like to them, Travis always talks about the ego that Riot has, how it looks for one of your 4 major regions. If you were going to kill it and just like get rid of it, there's been periods of time where the Riot or the LCS was the second most revenue generating or whatever terminology.
I think it still is. I think it's second most revenue generating this year because that was from the interview I did with Needham at the beginning of this year, and he said that even accounted for the loss of partners previously.
Does that account for the changes in viewership?
They do not get paid based off of changes in viewership. Long term they do. Long term viewership does dictate revenue because
the contracts are signed for years ago.
You sign a multi-year deal with a partner and then like Verizon or whatever, and then they're locked in at that rate, and it's not like programmatic advertising where like on YouTube where like I get more money when more people watch the videos.
CPMs.
Yeah. It's literally like, hey, we're going to spend, $1.5 million or $2 million with you or something like that every year for X number of years. In exchange, we're going to get all that stuff. And then obviously when these sponsors a lot of them I think do end at the end of this year. I expect some of them will leave, and I assume the others that re-sign will sign at a lower rate. So it is true that like the revenue will be gone, but like I think if you are Riot, you don't want to lose the second highest revenue generating league in your ecosystem, right? And Val is just starting, right? So the Val is not making that much money right now at all. Like I see people in the Twitch chat being like, it's a budget decision. I'm like, guys, like you do not make good budget decisions by killing products that are actually helping like break even in some cases for products that are losing you money in the beginning. That's just not why it works. And while ruining your reputation and your credibility with potential partners in the short term. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't here. Let me have this conversation with you, Mark. Well, I'm just going to pretend Twitch chat is not here.
Okay, I'll read Twitch chat.
No, don't read Twitch chat.
I will read Twitch chat. I'll try not to respond to it.
I don't know. Like, it is very funny because you and I both know. Like, I see, for instance, in Twitch chat. This is why I'm not going to read Twitch chat. I see Soul Snorlax saying, "Oh, it's because LCS is costing too much money," and stuff like that, where people in chat are like very confident that that they understand that like Riot is making this because of a budget decision or because of some sort of money reason. And it is like very difficult for me as a content creator and a voice to try to convey to them it's fucking wrong. Like they don't understand the circumstances enough because you and I have enough conversations with people behind the scenes. And like the only thing I can say to these folks are, guys, like I just had a conversation recently with somebody in leadership. These are private conversations. They could be encouraging me to go do Valorant by just being candid with me and saying like, yeah, Travis, like we're sunsetting the LCS. I get leaks and information, a very kind of conversation with people all the time. I know for a fact that is not what is happening. You know for a fact that is not happening. How do we convey that to people? Or do we just give up and just assume that people will always think like, no, they are actually sunsetting it for budget reasons or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what you're saying is you just drank the Kool-Aid. That's what I heard. You said, "Oh, I had these conversations with these people high up, and they convinced me that they care."
No, because these people will be very fucking they are not incentivized. People behind the scenes who are frustrated or bitter about something are not incentivized to lie to me. They are incentivized to be candid. Like, let's put it this way. If the LCS was actively trying to be killed, I would have so many people, like, one, like, this is not something that they could just sneak around and do. And two, and thus people internally would know, and I would have so many people beating on my door. Like, the amount of times where I get stuff told to me because people are pissed about something, it's like, it's so frequent. Like, I don't know how else to say I would know if that was what was happening, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, I agree with what you're saying. Like, I'm trolling. Like, you get these conversations. You can tell the person's being honest just because they're saying other things. So it's like, why would you lie about this thing? Plus, like, there's tons of jobs that people have that like depend on the fact that the LCS exists. And so, like, these people who are making these decisions around the LCS would be like getting rid of one of the things they have to do as part of their job. It's like they would just be shooting, even if they were acting purely in a self-interested way, they would just be shooting themselves in the foot. In that sense. And the final thing I'll say is like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what I was about to say, but now I lost it.
I mean, there's just things you could do. Like, if you really wanted to fulfill your contractual obligations, just say LCS is an online league only now, right? Or ship it off to Chicago. Like, there are ways to fulfill your obligation. Like, they spend money. Like, a great example. They just ran. They've been running these parties after the shows. In the parking lot. Like, I'm not saying they shouldn't do that stuff, but it is a lot of money that they spend on something that is fairly low impact. Like, if they were trying to kill the league, they would just not spend that money. Like, it's such a struggle.
Yeah, it's a in-person fan experience that they're trying to level up. And if they didn't care about the product, they wouldn't do that to that point. It's a good point. I think I remember where I was going to go with this. It was like ultimately the reason that you and I can't convince people that Riot does care is because it needs to come from Riot. You know, it's like we can only put in so many words trying to convince Twitch chat that like, no guys, they care. And then they're like, well, then why'd they do this? And like at the end of the day, Riot might have a reason they did that. They might not share it. And then so people are left to speculate and assume the worst, which is what people always do. So they'll always assume, you know, lowest common denominator or something like that.
People,
even if
and
maybe
it's
there's
just a
reason.
situation where people think they know better, right? Like Alex
Yeah.
in chat says parties cost shit. Yeah. What happens whenever you do 6 of them in a year and they actually don't cost shit because you have to spend money to get people in. You have to spend all this money to get people to staff it. You have to buy all this stuff for it. You have to like make
Rent food
like,
trucks, rent lighting,
have
rent,
stuff,
pay-
have
pay-
people internally and spend all this time in meetings and all this stuff. Like it's
You could just
just
not
it's
do
just
it.
I think
You
a
could just-
situation where people don't understand and so they just think they know better whenever they don't know better. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating for us because people just I think the we know better thing is always going to trigger you. I think at the end of the day, like I said, it's not on you and I. We fought the good fight. People don't believe you because you're a dirty fucking shill, you know, and that's what it's going to be.
Sometimes this job drives me fucking crazy. All right, Yami. Back to your point, I think that the LCS, I think the LCS is in a really good place. I think one of the biggest issues that you mentioned is not even just like Riot running it down, which I think they are doing in many different ways, but also like I think 3 days a week is too much LCS. Like when you have a situation where people feel fatigued with the league or fatigued with the format, and then you have to do 3 days a week in order to catch up. Like I find myself as a devoted fan and person who very clearly cares about the LCS because like everybody tells me Travis LCS is dying. Why are you still here? I can tell you that the financial incentives are not once were to cover this stuff. I'm still here. Yet I am like 3 days a week is too much. Like I don't have 15 hours a week to watch LCS, and I think that is also part of the reason why viewership is down is because like you're just splitting your viewership a lot because people are not going to tune in. Even setting aside the obvious stuff about a Wednesday versus Saturday or a Thursday, Friday versus Saturday, Sunday, like it's just a big ask to ask somebody to spend 15 hours. It's essentially a part-time job of watching LCS every week, you know?
I also think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's hard. Like I also watch LCK, and not to make this like a format take, but it is when you're doing games like that many days a week, it's nice to be able to not have every single game like that you want to watch every single day. So you can just be like, my team is playing on this day, I will watch the games this day, not like you said, 15 hours a week. I thought it was gonna be. I was like, oh, super week every week. It's gonna be so cool when the season started, and then it's a lot, even though I am watching every day.
Yeah, I mean, even more than the hours for me as someone who works on it, it's the lack of the downtime that hurts because I have to help plan the shows on Monday, Tuesday. You know, Hotline League, do other stuff too. So, yeah, it is a lot. 15 hours a week, I can do that. It's the fact that it eats up those 5 hours come out of a time that would have been downtime to do other things.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. But on the positive take, I do think LCS broadcast is in a really good place. I think a lot of the changes they've been making are good. I realize there is some tension around the casters and all that stuff, and so I think that's a topic that people get frustrated about in terms of the broadcast, where they feel like casters might need to level up more. There's some newer faces that are probably still getting their feet underneath them, and hopefully will continue to improve as time goes on. But I do think overall the broadcast has gotten to a lot better, and I think the biggest thing, and we've talked about this before on Hotline League, so I won't beleaguer it too much, especially because this call's gone on for a while. The biggest thing is how much the broadcast is bringing the personalities of the players into the show. There was a time where all you got was the post-game interview.
Forest Within had a positive tweet about the show. And then I was like jokingly to myself, like, haha, he never tweets anything good. And then underneath one of the comments, like, I think it was like Snowbird or whatever, was like, what the hell? I haven't seen you tweet anything positive in 6 years about the LCS. So, even Forest Within gave us a W.
Yeah. Yep. So I think just getting the players out there and all that stuff is good. But I agree with you, Yami, that it feels. I think that the most frustrating thing must be to work on the broadcast and feel like you're putting your heart and soul into this. You're trying to do all this stuff. Everything's great. You're like, well, we're making improvements on the broadcast. And then, oh, LCS missing 2 weeks. Oh, now it's on Wednesdays. Oh, now it's, not getting maybe the promotion that it deserves or all that stuff. It's just, yeah.
Travis, did you read that Reddit comment I sent to you like
Yes.
a week or two ago, right? Yeah. I felt that comment drove home a lot of like how I feel, which
Mark,
is like,
yeah, go ahead.
It's like this big comment. I won't read the whole thing, but it's just like the idea that like broadcast tone is going to drive viewership in any direction ahead of what actually matters with regards to being like teams, the players, the timing, format, the overall ecosystem, like, and I kind of understood, like reading that, I was like, yeah, I mean, like we can make the tone as fun and cool as you want, or as serious and hardcore as you want, or like whatever it is, but like that's not going to move the needle as much as all these other things, assuming you're executing at a decent level of any of these tones. Like if we went full Sports Center, like, yeah, is that the sexiest idea? No. But if you did it well and everything else around you was great, then like, yeah, like those other things matter more in the pie chart. The broadcast tone is like probably not the biggest thing. And so while everyone does agree who watches the show right now, they're like, or not everyone, but like, most people agree that's in a better spot. It's like, well, whatever.
Dude, Brian Kibler shows up in the chat just now. Brian Kibler, one of the most vocal opponents of the schedule change, says, I don't think LCS can compete with the top tier soap operas that people are watching at 2 p.m. on Wednesdays. Every time I see Brian Kibler, for those that don't know, noted streamer, man who I saw deadlift some 400 something pounds of weight earlier today on Twitter. Every time I see him, he's like, I used to watch so much fucking LCS. Now I can't ever watch any LCS. He's just so frustrated about it. And like, I know that he is what many viewers feel as well. There's a lot of people who I think feel put out by the time change.
When the time change thing officially happened way back at the, December or whatever, I remember I was at Koreatown or Japantown with Ashley, and I took a picture of what was playing on TV at the time, and it was like The View or something, and I was like, our competition.
It reruns.
Yeah, I was like, God, tough competition at this time slot. We got to beat out The View or whatever. It's like, God.
All right. Anyway, thank you so much, Yami. I know we went all over the place, and I hope you don't feel that I sort of leveraged you as a straw man for my arguments. But I really do appreciate you calling in and speaking frankly on how you feel about things. Yami, if you're still here,
I appreciate being a straw man. Like I said, huge fan of the LCS. I always want to be wrong whenever I have a negative take. Like I'm calling in wanting to be wrong. And I'm happy when I am, like I was with DSG. That's a good team. That was my last take. I don't want to make it about that, but I was wrong about that. I love being wrong about this kind of stuff. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right.
Anything you want to shout out before we say goodbye?
I would like to shout out the Summoner School Discord. We are doing our part to make League of Legends continue to exist in America, and help people get information on how to play it.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
All right, I think we can do one more caller before we take a break.
Okay.
Mark wants to go grab him. Thank you to a J Diamond, Freeze Trap, Showtime, Notorious Bubble, Pride Influence, and Yoser. Thank you, everybody, for the subs. Really appreciate all the subs. We've lost a lot of subs for the last couple of weeks, so folks doing that, very much appreciated. Khan is here. Khan, where are you calling from?
Boise.
Boise. Khan, for those that don't know, is a Reddit warrior, and you'll see Khan's takes in every Reddit thread under CLG Wrath, usually talking
Dude,
about one of 4 topics that Khan feels very strongly about.
We should commission some artwork for Khan where he's like in the Reddit trenches. You know, like it's like medieval combat, and he's just like there with like his takes like emblazoned on a shield and like a big Zweihander or something, and he's just like cleaning house against all the other Redditors.
Yes.
I just when you said he's in the trenches, like in the warfare, I was like, oh, I could just see a great, overly well done meme image.
The shield should look shoddy because some of his arguments are shoddy.
What the hell?
Khan, what do you want to talk about on the show?
You're a bully. I was gassing him up, actually. I said that would be
It's
a
okay.
sick...
Mark's gassing me up, even though he publicly on Twitter tried to gas me down at one point this year.
That was
funny.
I have my stance is I attack the argument, not the person. Travis attacks the person.
Oh,
That's the
yeah,
difference.
no, you're good. You're good. I love that argument still. I still think I'm right. But my take tonight is I brought up my 2 frontrunners for MVP. One was a very cold take of Jojo Poon being the MVP frontrunner, and the other one I said was Dignitas's Rich. And I think my big argument between both of them kind of comes down to the same thing, is that they are very much the focal point of their teams being able to succeed and get wins. And even though like Rich is on a team that is only 5-4 right now, I think both players have shown themselves to be, you know, whether they're picking out of pocket picks, obviously Rich is more like that. But they're very much the win conditions for both their teams. And when you compare them to like teams like, you know, Cloud9 or the other team that's ahead of Dignitas right now, which is Golden Guardians, I feel that both those players are clear win conditions for their teams, and without them, those teams would be losing majority of their games if they're not succeeding in their carry roles.
Which one are we looking to for one or more or both of these topics, Mark?
This is one topic. He's saying these are the 2 candidates. Before I dig into my thoughts on your 2 candidates, I have to ask, what are your thoughts on Blabberfish 2?
I think. Wait, okay. When you say Blabberfish 2, do you mean Blabber?
Yes.
Yeah, Blabber. That's his old
the
name.
Cloud9 jungler.
I think Blabber is fine, but he's on a team that is just well-rounded all the way through. And I just think when I look at teams like C9 and even Golden Guardians, I don't see one player who is just a standout above all of that. If they have a bad game, there aren't other people on their team that are picking up and carrying their teams to wins. Whereas when I look at Jojo and Rich, it's very much kind of do or die on like they need to win their lane, they need to have an impact in the game for their teams to either win and have a chance.
Alrighty. I don't disagree on most of it. I think you can make the case that of the teams in the top 5 right now, which is C9, EG, Golden Guardians, and Team Liquid, and then Dignitas. I think you could argue that Dignitas has some of the weakest components in that top 5. I think Santorin and Jensen and Diamond stepped up a little bit this week. And actually, Rich was able to win some games where he wasn't 1v9, which was cool. But he does seem to be like leading that team in a lot of ways. He has the off-meta picks. He's always throwing the curveballs. I think he's huge for that team. And so I don't think if Dignitas doesn't end a little better than 10-8, you know, if let's say they do the same thing again, I don't think he'll win it. They need to overperform a little bit more. But I think he does deserve at least some time in the conversation if he doesn't drop off more. I think you're underrating Blabberfish too. I think he's a beast, and I think this is a good meta for him to show that off. I think his Kindred games are disgusting. I think he had a great Nocturne game this split already as well. He can play the lame junglers, Sejuani, Maokai. He has no weaknesses. We were just looking at jungle stats during the dive. He's at like 3.6 kills and assists on average at 14. So he's finding 3.5 kills in the early game almost every game. It's like probably record setting again. Okay, Blabber on Vi, fair enough. Not the best. But also his bot lane fucking inted him by the time it mattered. And Vi is shit. So fair enough on the Vi point. But Vi aside, Twitch chat, Blabber doesn't have that many weaknesses. And that game had gone tits up by the time he had some troll ults. But I do think that he is legitimately, you know, maybe will go down as the best player of all time if he keeps this shit up. Because again, he is having a nuts split. That Vi game aside, it's absolutely disgusting how good he is. And he's done it with tons of teammates around him, tons of different mid laners. He's done it in tons of different metas. Every split, top 3 jungler. And right now, I think he's the best performing jungler. And I think he's arguably in that MVP conversation. I think, like, again, the point that his teammates will steal votes or whatever, fair enough, that is a risk. But I don't think that says anything about his individual skill level. I think on the far side is Rich in that conversation. Like I said, I do think he has some weaknesses with his teammates that sometimes might hold the team back, but who knows? And then Jojo is the other clear MVP candidate. I totally agree. I feel like every game except that C9 game, he's basically been the best player in their games. Unforgiven has popped off. Armeo has popped off, but like game over game, Jojo has performed. And even that game, I don't even know if you can say he really like didn't perform that great. It was like his bot lane imploded, kind of like what happened to Blabber, happened to Jojo. His bot lane is dead, and Eminez was just like sacking waves and roaming down. And Eminez was playing very good that game. I think Eminez had a better game than Jojo, but it was about like roams to bot lane to exploit those things. It wasn't like he shit on Jojo. So I think it's actually a really close MVP race, and it's cool that it's basically for me between 3 different positions. Whereas like, last split was like whichever AD carry ends up in first place gets the award kind of vibe.
The reason why I tend to skew more towards Rich or Jojo is because of the teams that they are on. Like, I feel like Blabber unfortunately does get held back by the fact that he has so many good players around him, whereas like nobody expected EG to be in the position that they are in, and I think a huge amount of that is because of the way that Jojo plays for them. And similarly, no one expected Dignitas to be as competitive as they have been, and that's hugely because of Rich. So I don't know if you feel like that's a shit argument, Mark. I'm open to hearing that you think it's a shit argument, but like I do feel like when you see players that are contributing so much to like a team's overperformance beyond expectations, I feel like that gives them a pretty big boost beyond, Jojo, who if you put Jojo on some of these other Blabber on some of these other teams. My brain's failing tonight. I don't know if they do as well as if you transfer Rich or Jojo to some of these other teams.
You had me in the first half. I think if you put Blabber on any team, they are catastrophically upgraded. Like if you put Blabber on IMT, you know how much better they would be? It's insane.
So I'm gonna step in here. I think one of the things that Blabber has going for him is the fact that he generally plays on a team with 2 or 3 winning lanes. We've seen how junglers can kind of underperform or feel completely useless in games if he's on teams that have losing lanes that gets invaded, that he isn't able to get the resources that they need. I look at, somebody, whether it be Closer or some, other junglers out there, that if their mid lane or their bot lane is being pushed in and they just get invaded, it doesn't matter how good of a jungler you have, you're going to get pushed off your camps and you're going to basically become resourceless and turn into like either a tank bot or hope you get,
So I actually do agree with your general point that like junglers are very team dependent. If you're playing with bad teams, you suddenly have to like do things you don't want to do. So like in those examples, if your bot lane's getting boomed, or what happened in the game versus Quid, where Closer has to go mid at like for finishing his first clear, like those things will of course impact a jungler. And I don't think Blabber is like, putting up and posting the same performances if he is on an Immortals team. I just disagree with the idea that like Immortals wouldn't become way fucking better the way like apparently Rich helped Dig. I think Blabber would do that to basically any team in the bottom half of the standings. He would like revitalize that team. The thing I also disagree with a little bit is like you have to look at how these guys actually play the game, because some junglers are very much about supporting their lanes. Someone like Armeo plays around his laners a lot. There are some junglers who are that style, and Blabber is actually not. He actually usually has pretty low jungle proximity while having really high kill participation, as well as like high kills in Civ 14. The way he does that is because he actually just forces a lot of fights and people come to him. Like he will fight you in the jungle 2v2. And like, of course, if your lanes don't have prio, that's a riskier move, but we know Blabber is going to do that anyways. And so like, I think if you look at how a lot of these fights actually develop in a lot of ways, it's very often that Blabber is the one leading the charge, and he's not just like following up on laning advantages. And it does help, to be fair, again, that his very good. I don't disagree with that premise. I think it would impact him if he ended up on a lower tier team, but I think his strengths are so good at being a self-sufficient jungler who is not like relying on blowing leads open so much as creating his own, that I wouldn't be that worried, honestly. It would be a fun experiment. I wish we could fantasy draft Blabber to the worst team in the league and watch what happens halfway through the split. I fucking wish we could.
Hey, thanks so much, Con, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
I run my own kind of YouTube channel for movies and TV shows and stuff called Josh Does Movies. Other than that, again, I shout out all the small YouTubers out there putting out LCS content. I love you guys, and I love to see that energy and passion. And I also shout out Travis, who is a big content creator. I don't want to make him think he's a small one, as he thought last time, because I think he's actually putting out great content, and it's a disservice that the last kind of random pop quiz didn't pop off as much as it should have.
Yeah, Surprise Test has been trending downwards, and I don't know if we continue the series if people, maybe, I don't know if people are just fatigued on it or whatever.
Con,
yeah,
what's your favorite movie you've seen this year?
It's going to be Past Lives. It's not a popular one, but it's kind of a co-hybrid of A24 and CJ Ensis in Korea. Super good movie, super good date movie. If you're looking for a date movie this weekend, go see Past Lives. I think your date would go very well.
I that was on our to be watched. We just signed up for AMC A-list, Travis.
Oh yeah, I told you to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, we always knew we should have, but I was finally like, God damn it, let's just do it. So we finally did it. So I think we're gonna try and see even more movies now, and Past Lives is on there.
Yeah, AMC sponsored this show because Mark and I, the movie talks in the beginning that can be sponsored by AMC, and we will promote AMC A-List because it's the best deal in cinema.
AMC A-List. I have Regal Unlimited here, very similar. Sign up for it if you guys like movies, because I've seen like 30 plus movies this year for $20 a month.
Dude, when I saw it, Damien dragged me to see The Flash, and afterwards I was like, I'm so happy I didn't have to pay an extra amount of money to see that movie. Anyway, thank you so much, Con. We'll catch you next time.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I might cancel A-List like in a couple months, but because there's so many good movies coming out this summer, I'm like, well, I'm going to definitely see more than one movie a month, so it's like definitely worth it,
When Barbie and Oppenheimer drop, we're doing the double features.
Yeah. Oh, I saw somebody I should have sent this to you, but you don't use TikTok, so I can't send it you stuff on there. But somebody did a like AI recut of Barbie. They called it Barbieheimer, and it was just the idea of like Oppenheimer, but instead it's all the Barbie characters. It was. And they reused a bunch of footage from the trailer, so it's like the footage of like the Barbie town, and it's the line from the Oppenheimer trailer of being like, "Oh, build a town, build it quickly." Blah blah. It's so good. But Margot Robbie's AI voice. Anyway, we're gonna take a quick break to talk about an actual sponsor of this channel, not AMC. They don't pay us shit. In fact, we pay them.
Suck.
Well, but they don't suck. We'd be down to pay. We'd be down. Anyway, the product that we are talking about tonight is Alienware. And boy golly gee, can I tell you all about how great it is to have Black Friday in July. It's active right now. It's been active since June 29th. It's going through July 30th. You can get up to $800 off on select Alienware products. The time is now. You've heard me talk about it in the past couple of weeks. You've been thinking about, wow, my laptop sure seems to be struggling lately, or I want to play one of these new, I want to get ready for Starfield or something. Go get yourself an upgrade over there at alienware.com/Travis. Use my link before you purchase so that they know that you came over through me, and I get a cut of that sent back to support TGI, whatever you end up purchasing. But go to alienware.com/Travis and then go in and look at their deals, because Black Friday in July is active right now, and it is a good time to be looking for an upgrade. Again, it's a great moment to buy new, reliable tech at Alienware patreon.com/Travis. Go check it out. Really appreciate Alienware's support of my channel. Yeah, save up to $800 on top gaming PCs and more. We love to see it. Anyway, thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. There's a link in the description of the YouTube channel if you are watching on YouTube. I think we also have one over on Spotify. But yeah, really appreciate Alien for sponsoring the show. Mark, you want to go grab our next caller?
Yes, sir.
Austin Humphrey says, Mark, the cast has been awesome. Thanks for all you do. Well, first off, interesting that you singled out Mark. You didn't say anything about me. 2, he just left the channel, so he didn't even hear me read that. So take that. That's what you get. Mark is back. Okay, so we got a caller here. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, I am Brandon, and I'm calling from Orem, Utah.
Brandon from Utah. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take was that.
So your last, by the way, is your last name Sanderson?
No.
Okay, different
Not quite
Brandon from
same
you.
place, different last name.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. FlyQuest.
Yeah. My take was that FlyQuest will have a miraculous comeback to 4th place in the regular season, and they will have a run to the finals. And on top of that, that'll boost NA viewership and help the LCS tremendously.
FlyQuest is going to boost NA viewership and help the LCS tremendously?
Yes.
Travis, you love storylines. What better storyline is a 0-6 terrible start into a surge to Worlds?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I could understand it helps viewership. I don't know if I would say boost tremendously. Okay, let's start with the first part. How are they getting to 4th and stuff? What's going on?
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at the standings and their competition, they are currently 3 and 6, and you'd think 4th out after how they started would be really far, but it's actually only 2 wins right now. Dignitas and TL are tied 5 and 4, so they're only 2 wins back halfway through the split, which is definitely doable. As well as they beat Team Liquid, so they hold the head-to-head so far. So if they were to beat them again, they would get the tiebreak, and you know, community sentiment feels like TL is probably the 4th place team compared to Dignitas and teams like 100 Thieves and NRG. So I think they're definitely better than those teams, and they have the opportunity, especially with some morale. I think they definitely have momentum.
Before we get to that, I just want to note that Tactical is in the Twitch chat. Khan, who was just on the show, said to Tactical, "You are one of my fantasy goats this season. Should I pick you up over Double If this week? Trying to keep my undefeated streak alive." And Tactical responded by timing him out in the Twitch chat. So, anyway, back to your philosophy on what's happening here. Okay, so that's why you think they're going to get 4th. And then why do you think that this will... What you said, you were very aggressive in your suggestion of how much FlyQuest storyline would boost LCS viewership. Can you elaborate a little bit on that part too?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Travis, you always have the take that players staying on teams is always good. I think FlyQuest has done a good job, even though it's just 2 splits, to really build around their players. They have a lot of content with Avali, and so they've built a lot around Spica, who's very vocal on social media. He's often in the chat too, and Vulcan, who's obviously one of the most vocal players on Twitter. And then everyone seems to have really grown fond of Prince over the last split. He had a lot of wholesome moments with Double Lift, and I think people have just become, like, every time casters or things talk about FlyQuest, they always mention how much they love the play.
Oh, did we lose you?
And so I think fans carry similar sentiment. And, oh, hello?
No, you're good. You're good. You came back.
Sorry. Where did I get lost at?
No, it's fine. It's fine. I think we understand what you're saying. I will say they did not keep their roster over the course of they were a team that made roster changes between spring and summer.
Yeah, they did switch the support, but the support was already getting switched multiple times within the same split.
But you can't be like, well, they kept the team together. Whatever they're making, like, if one of the roles was swapping during the split a bunch, then whatever, doesn't matter. I get your point.
5 is still pretty good.
Mark, what do you think? You think FlyQuest can surge up to 4th?
I think so. Here's why. I don't super believe in any of the teams outside the top 3. I think Team Liquid, Dignitas, and 100 Thieves have also shown enough weaknesses that with the compressed schedule, the general way teams can slump or surge, like it's actually possible to me that they do it. I don't think it will, because I don't think all 3 of those teams are going to drop enough games, and I don't think FlyQuest is going to surge hot enough to like rip off multiple 3-0 weeks, and then these teams aren't also going to keep going 2-1 or whatever, to actually get past all 3 of them, because all 3 need to get past. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the 3-0 was particularly convincing by FlyQuest. They didn't have the hardest competition around. I think that they are better than their record, and that they will climb the standings slowly but surely, but probably end more like a 5th, 6th than this like massive tie for 7th that they're stuck in right now. 7th through 9th are all tied. So yeah, I don't think TL and Dig are actually terrible. I don't think 100 Thieves is terrible. I think they'll continue to pick up wins around like a, sometimes they go 3-0, sometimes they go 2-1, sometimes it's a 1-2, blah, blah, blah. And I think like FlyQuest is probably also going to play that way too. So I think FlyQuest, like, I was very happy to see them bounce back. And I do think they will climb the standings. They were 10th. They're going to make playoffs. They'll probably be top 6. I would bet that. I would maybe even take a top 5 bet, but top 4 is too rich for my blood.
Okay,
what about you, Travis? You don't believe in their climb? You think they suck?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I was just about to say, so we got 3 weeks left. What they've got, I guess the rest of the round robin, right?
Yep.
The whole round robin again.
Second round robin. Anything that happened in the first round robin can be undone in the second.
Fourth spot. So right now they're only 2 games behind Dig and TL, who are tied for 4th.
Yep.
I'll take it. I'll take that they're going to get 4th.
You think they're going to climb over both 5 and 4 teams and the 4 and 5 team?
Yeah. Because they went 3-0 this past weekend. Like, I think they've probably figured their shit out, and they're going to become the team.
Wait, Travis, who'd they beat this weekend?
Oh, they beat a difficult team called Immortals. They beat a brand new powerhouse to the league, NRG, and they beat one of the 5 and 4 teams, which is Team Liquid Honda.
Uh-huh.
So there you go. They already have climbed over Team Liquid Honda once. You think they can't do it again?
Yeah, but they're 2 games behind them still. So they need to not only beat them again, they also need to beat a lot of other teams that Team Liquid's not beating. And they need to hope that Dignitas doesn't win more than them. And they have to hope that 100 Thieves doesn't win more than them.
Okay. But it shouldn't be that hard because Team Liquid has lost 1, 2, 3. Oh, they won that one. They're 1 and 4 in their last 5 games. So Team Liquid on a bit of a collapse. So I'm not.
Team Liquid is definitely collapsing. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
They are not a hot 5 and 4. Dignitas is like a kind of hot 5 and 4. Like, oh shit, they actually finished their second round robin.
Yeah, but okay. Listen, I have been a veteran of League of Legends esports for, I think, 12 years now. Dignitas always performs well in the beginning of the split. Everybody goes, oh my god, Dignitas might actually be good. And then they collapse. I don't care that they've changed ownership and management and everything, etc. It must be something about the colors and iconography around or maybe the name Dignitas. But that is their curse, all right? That is what Dignitas is. They perform well at the beginning, everybody gets excited, and then they collapse at the end. Everybody forgets about the thing that they did well. It happens all the fucking time. And I say it, and I say this every time, and ours isn't being true. So we'll see. Maybe it won't be true. But that, TL collapsing, Dig being Dig, then there's just one game behind 100 Thieves. And they're playing a player called Quid, who is up and down at times, I guess I would say. Has been good lately, but I don't know. We will see. But I think that, look, if the odds, if the we don't do betting, and we don't promote any betting sponsors, but if the odds were against FlyQuest getting fourth, I would take those odds. As in, like, I would bet on FlyQuest because I think the payout would be worth it.
And to be fair, for 100 Thieves, I would be honest and say I'm less worried about Quid and more about their jungler right now. I feel like Closer's had a really rough split. And he often performs really well in playoffs, but not in the regular season. So I wouldn't be surprised if FlyQuest were to surpass them in the regular season.
Are you convinced yet, Mark?
No. I think the Team Liquid point is a good, of all the points made, the Team Liquid one is the most convincing. That they're actually fraudulent. They're 1-4 in their last 5. And that was off the fact that they just dumpstered the bot lane of C9 early. And then, like, they can win games if they win them in the first 5 minutes. Any other game they lose. Like,
so you're still a Dig believer.
Yeah, so you're a Dignitas 100%.
I'm a Dignitas 100. I'm a field believer.
Oh
Between
my
those
God.
3 teams, I take the field over FlyQuest surging up to. Dude, FlyQuest won a bunch of unconvincing. Like, you're telling me that, like, Team Liquid's not convincing. FlyQuest still isn't that convincing. They won 3 games against not very good teams in, like, hard fought, nearly inted them away games.
You don't believe the 90% scrim rumors?
No, I don't think pro players can do math. Every fucking pro player has a positive script.
That is actually true.
Except
Unless
the one team
they're
that's
going,
predicting-
unless they're losing every scrim, they're winning the vast majority of scrims. That's fair. That's fair. Even Jack called that out on the broadcast. He's like, I'm not sure. I was told that it was this, but I don't really believe. Anyway, thank you so much, caller. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next call?
Yeah, I just love to shout out my wife for always supporting me, and shout out to you, Travis and Mark. I think you guys have done a great job keeping the scene relevant and keeping people involved. I know it's really helped me to stay involved with the players and be able to enjoy this split. Also, shout out to FlyQuest for their finals run that's going to happen.
Very good. Thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
All right. Off goes the caller. Mark, you want to grab the next one?
Yes, sir.
Thank you to Cat Goes Meow, Swede Be Good, gifting a sub, Wrath of Khan for 2 years, and Jam and TST for 17 months. Thank you, everybody, for the support and the subs. It is appreciated beyond what you know. EzraSmiles is here. Ezra, where are you calling from?
Hey, friends. I'm calling from Tampa, Florida.
Tampa, Florida. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is basically that C9 are currently overrated. Just that everyone rates them head and shoulders above everyone else. But I actually think that first place is an open field for more teams than ever to grab. So there's more teams to end as summer split champions than ever before.
Do you think people rate them that like a ton ahead of EG?
Yeah, I think so. Even though they're currently tied, it just seemed like watching the broadcast and just listening to people talk, or even Reddit sentiment, or even sentiment in like club topics, it's that C9 are head and shoulders above everyone else. And even though EG is looking good or tied for first right now, C9 is still like a head and shoulder above them.
You know, I do think it's fair because I think last episode we talked about, so we had an EG Hopium caller, and I was like, I think they'll get into best of fives and face C9, and C9 will beat them. So I guess maybe that is fair that even I have had that sentiment. I think here's what I would say. I think I'll sort of echo what I said in that call I was just referencing, which is I don't know if C9 is head and shoulders above EG right now. I think they will be by the time playoffs and presumably Worlds hits as well. So that's kind of my take. But Mark, what do you think?
I predicted EG to beat C9 this weekend. I tried to believe in another team, and when C9's not trolling, they kind of smurf. I shouldn't say like trolling, but like experimenting with drafts, maybe playing a little loose, having some happy games. They can drop games for sure, but they have good champion pools. They all are incredible players in a best of 5 with proper, drafting and these kinds of things. Like, I think they got dicked on by Team Liquid. They felt embarrassed. They picked a try-hard comp and absolutely ran it down, or made EG. They ran it down EG's throats. They shit on. I don't know.
Okay,
They shit
yeah,
on
let's.
EG.
They destroyed their opponents, as maybe.
You picked the euphemism. They got upset because they got destroyed by TL, and so then they did it to EG, who everyone else was saying like might be like. I wanted to start believing in EG, and they made me look dumb. So like I will learn my lesson, and I will predict C9 until they fucking lose. But until then, they're the best team in the world.
So I actually just think that even in some of their wins, they, of course, like there's a thing where they're in first, they're trying new things, and they're trying to be more creative, expand their champion pool. But I even think in their loss to Team Liquid, even though it was a kind of troll comp, I'm pretty sure their bot lane was pretty like a pretty traditional comp that still lost to Core and Yon. And I'm not saying Core and Yon are bad by any means, like they're looking good right now. But I'm just saying like they even look a little inconsistent in some of their games, and it's okay to say like, oh yeah, when they're not trolling, they're the best team in the world. But it seems like that consistency or them trolling sometimes it's what makes them inconsistent.
I
don't know. I think that what makes them consistent is how much they can destroy people in playoffs games whenever they need to.
Yeah, I think like consistency, you can say they're not the most consistent team in best of ones because like in the entire history of the LCS, we've never had an 18-0 team. You know, it's like the best we've done is 17-1. It's like you're going to call anything not 17-1 inconsistent. Like that doesn't track for me. So no, they're super consistent on the big picture. And like Travis said, they haven't lost a best of 5 since, you know, in a long time. They won the last 2 championships. They've shown that they're a good best of 5 team. I can't believe it.
I don't know. I think I would want to argue that even in some of their wins this season or this split, they've looked a little worse than they looked last split. I mean, there was talks of Budge being the #1 by and far best top laner in the league last split, and he doesn't really feel like that this split. And I just think that there's some more weakness or I think Cloud9 looks a little worse. And maybe it's post MSI slump or anything like that. But even I think I heard Sven talking about that they had like a good extra 2-week break, so it didn't hit them that bad. And I don't know. I just think the like kind of second part of my take that other teams look like they could grab first or play in the championship or whatever. I don't know. It just seems like a lot of the teams around them leveled up or are also hungry for the win or have the opportunity to win the split. I wouldn't be surprised anyway. As in, I would definitely take the field over Cloud9 for first.
Thanks so much.
My lesson.
Thanks so much, EzraSmiles, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Yeah, of course. I'll shout out Alienware for being an amazing sponsor. Shout out you guys for being a podcast and something always worth listening to. And then shout out Wild Turtle, my all-time favorite player, and he's Smurfing this season. So yeah, shout out him.
Thanks so much for the call.
Thanks, guys.
Catch you next time. Mark, are we missing? Did we drop a caller?
Someone died. I don't know who. Someone definitely died.
If you were in the waiting room, please in pleb topics or subtopics wave your arm at Mark so that we can get you back in because we should have 2 more calls for the rest of the show. Thank you to Jammin' TST, Big Blue Chicken, and Bill Gunn for the subs. Bill Gunn says, thanks for being more stable than the Law Esports website. Not a tough challenge. T1 ThotSeize is here. T1 ThotSeize, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from far west Utah.
And can I ask what your name is in reference to?
It is in reference to Magic. I've actually met you 2 times at different Magic events.
Oh. Mark? Anyway, what do you want? Where are you calling from?
Far west Utah.
Oh, right. Sorry. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is that Dig will be the 3rd team to go to Worlds from NA.
Dig. Oh my God. We just went through this. You should have been the one that dropped from the waiting room when you heard my infallible logic that that is all about past events dictating future events. Why do you think that they're going to go to Worlds?
So I guess to start off, I guess I'll say that the two teams I think that'll go besides them will be Cloud9 and Golden Guardians. Obviously, Cloud9 is the best team in this league. It's not even up for debate. I think Golden Guardians is probably just the second.
As a reference to our last caller.
Roster, and I don't know. I guess I just believe in those players more. And then I think Diggs starting 0-3, they could have just easily just threw in the towel and just been like, okay, this season's a wash too. Because I know they had a really bad season last year. But they kind of rallied back. You know, they've gone 5-1 since then. Rich, I know the LCS had that kind of like meme, not meme segment on Rich being the best top laner in NA. I mean, he definitely looks like the best top laner in NA, and I don't think it's really close. I think the rest of the team stepped up really well, and I honestly just don't think it's that crazy to think that in a best of 5 against, I guess, their competition would be EG for that third spot. I just don't think it's that crazy that a counter pick from Rich or Jojo just not playing perfectly leads them to, stealing that third spot away.
What about the idea of them getting a fourth slot, the fourth spot, and facing off against Europe? Do you think that you could play it safe and go with that? That is not a decision you made. Any reason why?
I don't know. I guess you can call me. I just don't believe in EG outside of Jojo. I mean, Jojo, we had a call earlier where someone was talking about Jojo being an MVP candidate, and rightfully so. He's definitely playing out of his mind, and I think that EG is where they are at solely off the fact that he is playing out of his mind. But I think if at any point he just has a bad game, the enemy team focuses him, whatever, then that team just can't actually win a game.
Mark, I see somebody in the Pleb Topics chat who is trying to get your attention. What? You can verify that was the person. All right, so it's sort of a lack of belief in EG and a big belief in Dig that is making you leading you to this decision. Mark, what do you think of all this?
I mean, the thing that annoyed me about the way EG lost was that it didn't prove that theory wrong or right necessarily about what happens when Jojo doesn't have a great game. Because
you're talking about C9 game.
Yeah, the C9 game.
I mean, it's not rolled by the better team. I mean, C9 is just better. That's kind of it is what it is. I think.
Yeah, and we've seen bot lane leads just snowball super out of control just literally the day before with TL versus C9. It can happen, and it doesn't reflect on Jojo played poorly and they're did they win that game or not? It was the bot lane got blown open. What can you do? Right. So the other game they lost was the Dig one where he was on Ahri and he played well early and then struggled a little bit late, but the whole team's draft was just not great. So, I want to see some hard fought games out of them, much like I want to see that out of Team Liquid, where they don't get massive leads and they outperform the 20 to the 30 minute range off the back of the entire team and not just Jojo. So yeah, it's something like that. But at the end of the day, this loss wasn't like that, so I still don't know. But I'm confident enough that they are good that they should make Worlds outside of them busting out in 5-game series because they haven't played any yet together. But otherwise, I'm pretty confident EG.
You were on the Dig hype train earlier, Mark, but not enough to get them to Worlds, I guess. Or do you think they'll take that fourth spot?
Well, I think it's more the fourth spot, if anything. I believe in GG still. I will say GG is a very scary 6-3. They could have lost a lot of games. A lot of them were very troll. Stixay wins some last minute team fight. They could have dropped 100 Thieves. They could have dropped to whoever else they played. I can't remember. They did drop that game where he was carrying on Tristana. So this team has had a rocky 6-3 showing. It's not the most convincing, but I still generally believe in them.
So do you think they take the fourth spot? Dig.
I just said yeah, probably potentially. I just said why they wouldn't go over it. The other things are possible, but I don't think so. I still believe in Golden Guardians and EG.
Gotcha. Okay.
What about you? Huh? What about you?
I mean, I said what I thought earlier, which was that FlyQuest.
What about Golden Guardians? You don't think they're fraudulent with those close wins?
No. That's just Golden Guardians, baby. Wasn't that what they were doing in Spring a ton? They would just end up getting behind, and then they just like play their heart out, stretch the game out, and then suddenly pick up the win, and it would be like, oh damn. And then they kept doing that to the point where people were like, actually, they're not that bad. And then they kind of still did it at MSI. They had at times better showings than Cloud9 because they just seem like they're good at playing from behind because they're like, whoa, we're not supposed to win games, and then they start to lose them, and then they're like, fuck it, let's win it anyway, and then they just decide to anyway.
Yeah, I guess I thought they were a little bit more convincing though. Like the Gory River Huhi trio played really well in spring, and it hasn't really taken off.
I just think their competition is leveled up. Like I do think that there were the teams. It did not. Well, either Cloud9 and Goldie Guardians got worse from spring, which is a chance, but I don't think it's likely. Or a lot of these changes that we didn't actually expect to do well did actually quite well for a lot of the teams. So I think that's maybe what we're seeing is we're just seeing them face tougher opponents this time around. Since they were one of the... It was only them in the C9. No, there was a third team that didn't make changes. But I forget who. Team Liquid. Team Liquid didn't make changes. Yeah. So that's what I don't see Dig going. I think we'll have Cloud9 Golden Guardians finals again. So I'll just make the full prediction because you always tease me for not putting my opinion out there. We're at the halfway point. We got an entire round robin. I think we see Cloud9 Golden Guardians in the finals. Cloud9 beating Golden Guardians again. I think EG puts up a convincing fight against Golden Guardians in the losers finals on the Saturday. And then I think FlyQuest ends up in the 4th spot headed to Worlds. I think they beat whatever sham that scrub region LEC decides to throw their way.
Vitality is 10th place.
I know.
What a region. What a region.
I know. Meme region, all right? We might be dead, but at least we don't have Vitality in 10th place, okay? Never mind the fact that FlyQuest is in 10th place last week. All right. Thank you so much, T1 ThotSeize, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our last caller?
Yeah, I'll shout out you guys. I've listened for a while. This is my first call, and I'll shout out Alienware.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate you doing that. That's very nice. Thanks. I hope you come up and say hi again at another Magic event.
I'm sure I will.
You going to Vegas?
Yeah, no, probably not. I don't like the Vegas event enough to want to do that.
Okay. Well, guess I won't see you there. But maybe another one. Catch you later.
Peace.
By the way, speaking of Magic, I'm going to be in Vancouver next week. I would like to go into a cool card shop in Vancouver and maybe even do like a commander thing or a draft if we get enough people. If you're listening to me and you know about cool card shops in Vancouver and you're interested in this, please tweet at me. All right. We have our caller who disappeared for a little bit, returned. Franco, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Ventura County down here in SoCal.
Nice. You got the SoCal accent, I feel like. What do you want to talk about on the show?
That's probably because I'm a beaner, so I think that's what the accent
okay.
is from.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so, after Revenge stomped his old team, he was co-casting with on the 100 Thieves stream, and, I noticed when Someday got ganked, he didn't make the proper play, and Revenge was pretty on it to call him out and kind of said how he could have done better on the gank. So, I just thought, casters need to be more on point in terms of criticizing players. And I know players have kind of a soft shell and pretty fragile egos. So it could just bring more drama and overall make it more entertaining. As a fan, I enjoy when, things get pointed out. Sometimes things happen so fast, So I think overall it'll be better for the game.
What would you have liked to have heard the conversation be like? Can you give an example?
In terms of other than the one I gave of Revenge when he kind of
No. I mean, you said you want the casters to kind of call them out. What are can you explain what that would look like?
Yeah, just like whenever a player makes like a bad play, just being more on point to kind of calling out the player by name. You know, I watch a lot of co-streams and like I watch LEC a lot, and like I'll be watching like Kadro. I think he's probably one of the best casters, along with Captain Flowers. And some I've noticed that he'll just won't be willing out to call the players out whenever they make a bad play. He'll kind of try and spin it and kind of put a positive tone on it. But I would like just more blunt truth on it. I think it'd overall be better.
So, did you like Freak's cast a lot in the last couple of years? Because I know he got a lot of criticism for being very critical of players.
I've been playing since 2010, but I really only started watching within like the last 3 years, kind of after COVID. So I only really saw Freak cast right before he retired.
Yeah, I mean, he was getting very critical of players, I think, in those 2 years that you watched. So
it definitely sparked things within the community. It was divisive. Some people loved it when he was like, CLG has done nothing intelligently proactive in the last 20 minutes. I think that was the call where everyone was like, fuck yeah. And then he's had some that didn't go over well. Also, as a note, Captain Flowers is a play-by-play, not the color caster is what we call it, usually the analysts. So, just generally speaking, the play-by-plays are not the ones to be like, what a dipshit. He should have done this, or that. I also think, hot take for you, League is a really easy game to backseat when people do things dumb. It's actually really easy. It's so easy you can ask Treats how much harder it is to win a game in the LCS versus tell people what they did wrong and losing it. I think you could ask him how that's going. I say this with tongue in cheek. I actually like Treats a lot. I don't care that he talks shit on the Nutsack stream with Dom and all those guys. And he himself has said that, if I was casting my games, I'd be shitting on myself too. But my point is, it's actually not hard to do. And stylistically, I think you can say that you enjoy when people call a spade and a bad play a bad play. But I don't think it requires much skill, or I don't find it, particularly compelling when someone messes something up. I think it's usually actually better. I personally like trying to get in the head of the player and what they were going for, if it worked or didn't work or something. I think really egregiously bad plays do deserve it. I think of a player like there was a play to this week where Solo fucking inted by ulting an Alistar. He was full health Cassante, half health himself by taking an Alistar over the wall, splits the fight up, ruins the battle lines, and immediately afterwards you see him face palm and he's pissed at himself, and it's that was a terrible play. And you know what, people can probably roast that play. I think there's a lot of times where someone does something not perfectly and people tear that down too. So I guess I'm somewhere in the middle ground. Franco El Tonko. I think co-streams maybe go a little bit too far for my taste about just shitting on every little itemization choice, laning choice, team fight choice, because I don't think it's particularly hard to do.
I appreciate it when it feels like it's a bit of an entertainment thing. Like Bill Gunn in chat just pointed out the famous Kobe cast, which was, oh man, that TP sucked. I think that is fun versus being oh my god, this is I'm dying. I'm getting cancer from this play. Oh my god, this player, that kind of melodrama, I think is kind of annoying, right? If you're poking fun, if it's funny, if it's adding to the entertainment, that is cool. But whenever you're just I'm getting physical pain from this, it's just this is you're not adding anything to it. It's not interesting. You're just decrying it. That's my take, right? But yeah.
Here's one way I'll defend it, and where I can 100% get behind it. Somewhat, I guess 95% get behind it. Is there is a big market for it, and people do like it a lot. To the caller's point, he likes it, and we were just defending at the start of the show YouTube titling and thumbnailing. Playing to what the market wants and giving them that is something that I will be okay, you know what, fair enough. You know your audience, they like this. I think Cageral's someone who the way he casts versus the way he does his co-stream are night and day, and he knows his audience for both. And so like, you know, he'll scream and act like a psychopath on his stream and stuff that like personally is not my cup of tea, but is clearly very popular. So I do think that's also a fair case to make for a lot of these co-streamers is like, well, it's successful, so I do what's successful.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say, like, yeah, there is a balance. Like, yeah, I'll be seeing some other co-streams and they're like way too negative, and it's just like negative. Especially like when they're watching LCS, it's just like automatically a joke. So yeah, I would agree that there is a balance. But even like for the casual situation, yeah, it's night and day from his co-streams when he's on the actual LOC channel. But I think also the factor that he's like friends with a lot of these guys, and you know they're like, you know, in the background they're buddies. There's also that like unwillingness to kind of, you know, criticize to that point. So I will say that it'd be a little bit nicer to get that. And going back to that revenge play, it was just something that I kind of didn't really get to see from like watching the LCS, you know, co-casters. Just it was something different, and it kind of opened my eyes, and I thought, oh shit, it'd be cool, you know, hearing more of this.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
Yeah, people in chat are like, oh, I was flaming casual. I didn't flame him. I said he has two different personas. That's like one's his streaming one, one's his casting one. I personally prefer his casting
Mark thinks
one.
he's a fake.
Yeah. I mean, the person I actually flamed in this topic was Treats. And even then, I'm saying, like, you know, even him, I get why they do it. And he himself, like, owns his shit. So I don't even think he's necessarily wrong for doing it because he's saying he would do the same thing to himself, you know?
Yeah. People thought I was flaming an individual streamer, too. We're making general conversations around this stuff. Yeah,
it's like cups of tea. I think, to the caller's point, sometimes people go too safe. And you know, if I'm going to say that the co-streamers go too hard sometimes and it's negative, I think there's plenty of times where the broadcast just doesn't have an opinion. I think one thing that co-streamers do very well is they have an opinion. This is a bad build. This is a good build. This is a good draft. This is a bad draft. I'll admit that, like, when I'm casting, I pretty much fucking, unless one draft is absolute dog shit, I don't have a super strong opinion on it. And if you want to talk about, like, endearing your fan base to, you know, the game or you know, like having a strong opinion will give people something to talk about and latch onto. I don't do it on the official broadcasts because I don't want it to be about my opinion of the situation. I just want it to be about the teams and the players. But on a co-stream, that's a really different situation because at the end of the day, you are the product versus the LCS being the product. So, like, when you really dig into the nitty gritty of like why certain decisions are made, I think it's more understandable why each party acts the way it does. But I personally, you know, like if you're good, like I can easily sling the same criticism or like a different kind of criticism about the LCS casting style that would make people not like it as much as co-streaming because it's safe, it's boring, they don't have strong opinions as much, they overhype things, they have that fake hype sound. You know, there's like all those things that people say about casters that, you know, it rings true for some portion of viewers as well.
Hey, thanks so much, caller, for the take. Anything you want to shout out before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I'll shout out Alienware, and I'll shout out my girlfriend Malia. It's our 1 year today, so I love you, baby.
Dog.
Congratulations. And you're celebrating it the way everyone should celebrate their 1 year.
You already know what the best. Thanks, Travis.
Yeah. Thanks so much. We'll catch you next time.
Hotline Love coming back.
All right. Well, that is the show. Stick around on stream. I'll be here for a while still. But Mark, what do you want to shout out? Plug? I had somebody call I streamed a little bit on YouTube before this and brought everybody over to the Twitch stream. But somebody said, "Hey, honest question. I'm trying not to sound entitled, but why are there no longer any Blame Game episodes?" And I said,
"That's not entitled."
I said, "Yeah." I was like, "It's not entitled." I said the two answers are: one, the show's no longer sponsored, so it's hard to do it on a weekly basis because it is fairly expensive. I got to pay Mark and our editor, and boy, does Mark takes me for everything he can. And then I said, and Mark's just honestly been very busy. That's also been part of it. 3 day weeks of games. I know it gives you one less day to create content.
Yeah. So. I could, if I wanted to, kill my Sunday to make the Blame Game. It's basically like the trade-off I'd have to make. So then I would just have Saturday off. And that doesn't feel great for me when I'm already pretty busy. And the fact that, like Travis said, it would just be, I mean, on the one hand, it's not a profit loss because you would probably in the long run it'd be better for your channel, but at least the short term, it's probably a loss. So it's like there's no obligation to do it, and I'm just busy. So
yeah, if anyone would like to sponsor the Blame Game, please let us know.
I do owe people at some point a retrospective on that thing. That's going to happen for sure any minute now.
The lowest viewed Blame Game ever. Mark responds to 7-month-old content.
I think I just keep finding new ways to push it off. I'm going to fold it into a retrospective on this year if viewership ends poorly.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't go, if I don't make that video, I'll fold it into looking forward to 2024 and why it has to be better than 2023. And then if that doesn't work, I don't know. Well, I'll just keep finding new ways to find times to talk about it.
Mark is going to be like a retrospective on LCS after it ended in 2026.
As a 70-year-old, I'll look back at my career and be that one Blame Game I didn't do is what sent it all downhill.
Yeah. Yeah, we could do a Blame Game Patreon, but I think we'd need many hundreds of dollars.
I did a Blame Game Patreon before, and I did it because I'm not very good about my own channels, and I thought that if I had motivation externally, I would be better about doing the Blame Game and like really on top of it. If I have an obligation to do something for someone, it usually makes me a lot better about doing it. But the Patreon system just like wasn't enough of a real contract or like a social, like even though I slipped on it a couple times, and it wasn't as powerful of a motivator as I thought it was.
Yeah, Mark felt no guilt in betraying people giving him
fans are giving me $5 a month. Ha, I'll take that to the bank. That's what I said.
All right. Anyway, speaking of, want to shout out Eddie for giving a Prime and Alter Ego for giving a Prime. Feel free to sub to the channel. All right. Thank you, everyone. For the show. I'm going to be traveling next week. I'm going to be in Vancouver for a wedding. Mark and I will talk about whether or not there'll be a Hotline League. There might not be if there's not much that has happened, and I am traveling, and so we might skip next week. I don't want to. I feel bad doing that. I love doing this show weekly, but let me put it this way. Anybody looking for to sponsor some esports content, especially Worlds this year, I would love to have that. Alienware's not going away, but they're just obviously on less content this year. So looking for any partners out there. But yeah, we'll probably do Hotline League next week, but I just wanted to flag that maybe if it's hard while I'm traveling, we won't do it. But I will be in Vancouver and looking to play some Magic on Sunday night. So if anybody has a Magic shop, let me know. Anybody wants to come. I do not have a Patreon. We might open a Patreon at some point in time. I had a Patreon before, and it did not generate, I think, the revenue that I needed to make it to fulfill on the things that I needed to fulfill on. So maybe we'll figure it out. I don't know. Travis slowly pivoting to MTG. No. MTG, I think, is not an ecosystem that could sustain me, and I still love and care about the LCS, so you don't have to worry about it. All right, everybody, that's the show. Thanks for watching. We'll be back probably next week. Maybe not. You'll find out. Bye.